Coming up on today's show.
That there's many people that are verbal processors. So these are people who like to talk through information.
What are some of the clues that they are a person that's more verbal?
A lot of people, again, create visual cues with that. So they're highlighting things with a different color. They're putting a box around things they need to remember.
Using your strengths for organizing and productivity, part 2, today on Keeping You Organized. Hello and welcome to Keeping You Organized. We are now into part 2 of our 2-part episodes, I should say, on using your strengths and using those for better organization and productivity. And we're going to bring on Ellen DeLapp, professional-organizer.com. Ellen, welcome back to part 2.
Thank you.
I'm sure glad you made it. Like I said at the end of the last show, if people didn't see that, if you didn't come back here, it was going to be a really long episode. But
That's right.
You are the president-elect, and maybe even by the time this is on, you'll be taking, because some people will watch this 2 years from now. But in
right.
Do you officially take over in May, the National Association of Professional Organizers?
Yes.
Okay.
I'll be excited to be taking part as the president starting May 15th.
Great.
And I have a 2-year term.
Okay.
So it's
going to be good.
Fun. Looking
Yeah.
forward to it.
I hope they give you like a limo or something like that too to drive around in. I'm sure they do.
That's right. Special bling. Yes.
Anyway, on part 1 of our podcast last time, we talked about, first of all, identifying. We came up with 9 different categories. We're not going to cover all those, but we touched on visual learners. And let's just recap that real quickly to bring us up to speed. What are some of the attributes of someone who learns like that? And what were some of the quick fixes that they could use to start getting more organized?
So visual learners really like to see things. They like out of sight is out of mind is their key phrase. And so to help them, we try to make things visual but not distracting, kind of calming and aesthetic possibly, but not overwhelming in terms of the amount of clutter out. So we try to find visual ways to help them process information.
Okay.
But
That's an excellent summary of that, because I know it's so much deeper than that. But let's move on to another. I think when we talked last time, the verbal person, the listening, and summarize what that category is, and then let's get into some of the applications there.
So while most people are highly visual, it's been my experience with the clients I work with that there's many people that are verbal processors. So these are people who like to talk through information and gain clarity in describing and talking through and having many different ideas, kind of like a verbal brainstorming with information. And so for the value for people who are verbal processors is to have someone to process with. And this is especially valuable for people in workspaces, because you might have a colleague or an assistant that you want to have help you process information, get clarity, and then be more productive as a result. So that's where these team meetings can be really instrumental for 5 or 10 minutes at the beginning or the end of the day, and then just chart your course from the information that you finalized as a result.
So when you're meeting with someone for the first time, what are some of the clues that they are a person that's more verbal?
Verbal people like to share a lot, which I actually greatly appreciate, because then I'm getting a lot of depth and information and a lot of surrounding information that will be valuable in our work together. And so by getting that information, we can create a plan that's a lot more effective for them.
Okay. Well, what are some of the organizing strategies or productivity strategies for people like that? We talk about the team meetings. Do you tell them, set up a team meeting or find an accountability partner, or what are the approaches?
Yeah, I think accountability partners and clutter buddies are really valuable for people that are auditory processors, especially they appreciate a coaching modality, because that way they have someone who's kind of helping them gain perspective, helping them learn about what have they done well, and just creating a more productive, effective timeline for their day and for projects in general.
Do you find
I love team meetings and family meetings for that reason?
Yeah. Do you find people like that write less down, or not, or expect other people to remember things just because they said it?
I don't know if they expect people to remember them or if they remember them more. That's what I find. Again, that's an auditory strength in addition, because auditory learners typically don't have to write as much down because they're capturing so much by listening. Mm-hmm. So it really depends on what other tools they want to use. So a lot of times with auditory learners, I will ask them to use a tape recorder or use Siri on their iPhone, because they can speak into their iPhone and it will capture the information for them. Using timers, auditory things that will distinguish, like this time has ended, I need to move on, that kind of thing. So kind of auditory and verbal can work hand in hand at times.
Yeah. Yeah. So how does like verbal processing kind of work into that picture?
So I find for verbal processors, once that they've gained clarity, they usually know what their next task is, and then they can also chart it along with their planner, their calendar, their online tool, whatever they're going to be using to chart their success in addition.
Okay.
So I don't think it can stand as much standalone as it does need some other tools.
Okay.
To help those people move forward.
Now, is there anything else you want to touch on here as far as the verbal person or the listener or the auditory learner, other strategies that they could use?
I find the timers really are important. I mean, the more timers, having that auditory signal, sometimes auditory processors do well with background music, like different kinds of music. It might be classical, it might be some just soothing sounds. Like there's a lot of sound machines that you can purchase very inexpensively. So things like that. So yeah, sound is a really positive element for auditory processors.
Okay, great. Well, we're going to take a quick break, and when we come back, let's move on to the next one, which I think is the kinesthetic, or the people that like touch. And we'll dig in a little more on that. We're with Ellen DeLapp, professional-organizer.com, and we'll be right back. Now there's a place just for you. Life can be busy, and you still have to keep it all together. That's why you like to be organized and in control. Introducing MyOrganized.life, a special place where you can get ideas and solutions to organize what's important to you, your important papers, your important decisions, your important life events. We show you the ideas and products to stay organized in your life. See what's new. Stop by and say hello. Visit us at any time at www.myorganized.life. It's just for you. MyOrganized.life by Smead. Find us at www.myorganized.life. MyOrganized.life. We're back now, keeping you organized, talking about using your strengths for organization and productivity. And we kind of talked about the idea of the verbal or the auditory learner in the first half. Now, Ellen DeLapp, let's move back into kind of this concept of the kinesthetic learner. I mean, that's a big word, but it's for people that either like, maybe you'd even define it, like to touch things, like to move around, kind of, that kind of thing. Or how would you identify when someone came in, to your office, that they're that type?
So a lot of times we would distinguish the fine motor with tactile, which is more hands, writing, typing, things like that, and kinesthetic, which is more gross motor, big picture movement. That and often, again, since they're both with movement, they work hand in hand together. So tactile people really like to rewrite and fine motor skills, just art, that kind of thing.
Right.
Kinesthetic people, I find you can see a lot of the smoothness of their movement just in the way they walk, and even just incorporating that into the way they're talking to people on the phone, or if they're having a meeting, standing up, the stand-up desk. We're seeing that a lot right now. those are very valuable for people that are kinesthetic because we want to be moving, and that helps us think. So,
well, I think about, I have a stand-up desk, and I think this might be the category I might fall in. I don't know. And maybe you can be in a little bit of everything. But one thing I notice when I do meetings, I'm constantly drawing geometric designs. I don't know, like I'll draw a box, then I'll do a 3D box, and then a box within a box. And I don't know what it is. What is that?
That is a perfect example of tactile and kinesthetic. Okay. There you are, John. Oh. That's great.
Okay, now I need a lot of help. So what are some of the strategies I can use to be more organized then?
Well, I think we definitely need to be sure we rein in using the tactile. Like a lot of people, again, create visual cues with that. So they're highlighting things with the different color. They're putting a box around things they need to remember. Just over typing, writing. It just deepens your memory of the information. So especially if you're trying to learn new information, you want to be sure that you're the one doing the action. I often find the kinesthetic and tactile learners are the people, they're not reading the instructions on how to assemble things. They're just like, have at it. Let's just break open the box and get to it and start putting it together. That kind of thing.
Oh, yeah. So, yeah. Well, how about like, going back to something as simple as a to-do list or a calendar, how should they be interacting with those, basic, productivity tools?
So I find most of my tactile learners really want a paper planner because they love the writing part of it. They love using different kinds of pens and the way they feel, or the pencil, the way they feel. And they often have a really favorite tool that they like. Do you have one that you like, John?
Well, I have a clipboard. Yeah, clipboard, but
that's another good one.
Yeah.
Yes. The people that I work with that are kinesthetic love clipboards because I think it's like a coaching thing too. Yeah. Like from when they were in high school, they remember their coach carrying around a clipboard and checking things off. And
yeah, I like to give orders, I like to tell everybody what to do. So it's like an authority thing too, probably.
Yes, exactly.
Yeah.
So I think definitely choosing a tool that will coordinate with your style is one of the elements that I want to stress from all the different styles that we've talked about.
Yeah.
So going back to those Post-it notes that you said, like you might want to arrange them in an array where on the wall you have today, next week, long-term projects. So that way you can use that kinesthetic, that movement.
Right.
I often find that with my clients. They'll use Post-it notes on a window or a refrigerator or things like that so that they can maximize their list making.
Yeah, you know what I do, because I'm not one of those people that likes to have a ton of those things out. What I'll do is I'll take a Post-it note and post it inside of a notebook. Like, so you'll have a sheet of paper with, 4 or 5, things in it, but it's not on your monitor and that. I mean, I do have a couple things out, but I like to generally have a kind of a clean workspace, but
Exactly. And then you can move your Post-its even in that notebook too,
right,
from page to page.
Yeah. So what other tactics or strategies can you use with someone who's a kinesthetic type learner? And as far as, how about productivity? We kind of talked a lot about just general organization, but how about productivity?
So being more efficient for kinesthetic learners, one thing I love to integrate is be sure you have an exercise time, because that's very valuable for you creating focus for your productivity and just being on top of your game. So whenever you can integrate that, most people try to do it in the morning because for sure they'll get to it, but throughout the day, that's like a big picture wellness productivity tip.
Yeah, I'm totally on board for that. Love it.
Yeah, and it's just a great wellness tip as well.
Right.
For productivity for kinesthetic learners too, I find that the walk and talk, where you're talking about the meetings, I think everybody's shorter meetings is our goal, be more efficient during our meetings,
right,
that kind of thing.
Yeah.
And then just, and I don't know if you find that, you said you have a team of 6. Do you ever have a walk and talk meeting?
We don't have walk and talk, but I do have a stand-up desk, so when people come in, typically we're standing. That makes the meetings a lot shorter too.
Yes, absolutely.
Yeah, once in a while I'll sit down, but I actually do that for health reasons too. I don't. I can't be sitting in a chair all day long. I'm not like that. I'm not good at meetings either. That's why I probably start doodling. Because my attention span's about like this long. But I know I do, though, once in a while. It's not a regular thing, but I will try to maybe go walk to the other side of the building and see somebody at a certain time in the afternoon just to get like a little burst of energy so I'm not, so cooped up all the time, too. But
yeah, and I think that's another kind of like the Pomodoro technique that would work really well with kinesthetic people. Like work 20 to 25 minutes with your timer, take a 5-minute break, take a walk, refocus.
Yeah. That
series of 3 sessions really would help with productivity as well for the kinesthetic learner.
Yeah. Well, we're just about out of time here. I want to make sure we've covered all the points, in the last, basically this episode and the one before. We've talked about the kind of the main categories and some of the strategies. Is there anything else regarding strengths and how we might look at ourselves and use that to apply to organization?
Well, I think the first step is awareness. And once you hone in on that, then there's lots of different tools, not only these processing modalities that are part of Denzel Brown's work, but also strength finders. I think you mentioned that. Yeah. Marcus Buckingham has several books on strengths as well. So I think it's just playing into strengths makes us feel more confident, makes us more effective and more productive, and it overlays into all of our organizing as a result.
Great. Well, we'll put links to those books, also the people that you mentioned, and I know on your blog, too, that you've got some articles regarding this as well. So, well, Ellen, real quickly here, just let people know what kind of clients you work with and how they can get a hold of you.
Well, thanks, John. So I work primarily with ADHD clients. I work in the greater Houston area, but I also work virtually. And so I love to talk with people who are interested in being more organized and more productive. And I'd love for you all to visit my blog at professional-organizer.com.
Great. Well, Ellen, as usual, love this stuff. I know we're going to have you back. The time flies when we do this, but it's real good information. I think, people are trying to be more productive. I think that's something that is never going to go away. No matter what tools or what, electronics and robots and all that stuff, everyone still needs to be just a little bit more organized and a little more productive. So I think we both have jobs for a while, don't we?
Yes, I think so too. And I think that the focus throughout the year, not only in January, which is naturally the time we make changes and new resolutions, but we all know the value of being more productive and being more organized and how much that adds to our wellness and our relationships. So yes, I think we're definitely going to have jobs for a while. Great.
Well, folks, check out our show notes at smead.com/podcast. We'll have links to the people that we talked about today, Ellen's blog, and then, of course, more episodes to come. Like our promise is that we're going to keep doing these things because these are things that people struggle with really on a daily basis. And we'll see you next time on Keeping You Organized.